I believe we were talking about change process, and we just finished talking about tangible, intangible perks that you can utilize for a change process. Also, there may be internal and external factors that affect a change for positive or negative, and a good change plan will attempt to address these issues smoothly. External influences could include things like technological advances, product changes, market fluctuations and conditions, and economic variables, as well as political type forces. And internal changes, reasons for change could be based on company performance, new technology, and high turnover rates. We are kind of looking at both of these, actually, internal and external factors in our change process, because we merged two companies. We want to create a new company to keep up and actually advance above and beyond the technology that's out there. And this is going to include internal processes as well, because we're bringing in IT and a social media group together. Again, there is always going to be some resistance when you do a merger or any type of change process within a company. Basically, resistance is somebody just not wanting to change. They like it where they're at, they're comfortable, they don't want to upset the status quo. They feel like if it's not broke, why fix it? They could be afraid of what's going to happen. They might be afraid of losing their job. They might like or dislike their current boss and coworkers, and are afraid of what that might entail with changes. They might not know what their new position is going to be, and aren't sure if they're going to know how to perform that position. So, also in our particular instance here, it's a little bit unclear on who's in charge. If people are going to need to relocate, are the leaders going to be authoritative, or is it going to be a little bit more relaxed atmosphere at the new company? How are they supposed to dress? How are benefits going to change? How are vacations going to work? Pay, things like that. So it is important to address these fears immediately with employees, so you can help prevent resistance and give those expectations of what the change is going to mean for each person, how it's going to look. It's a way to dispel rumors, and you aren't always going to have every answer, but at least you can do whatever you can to make the transition smoother, and try to find out those answers for people if they have particular questions that you don't know the answers to. Important to note that some workers are going to try to derail the change. They might quit, or they might threaten to quit, or they might try to say, hey, if we don't do this merger, we don't do this change, we'll work harder. Everybody here will work harder. We've all signed a petition. We don't want this to happen. Things like that. So it's kind of similar to the stages of grief, where there's denial, anger, fear, bargaining, acceptance. You're going to deny what's going on at first, and then you're going to become angry, and then that fear factor comes in. Some of these will kind of circulate around and around, and they may not be in this particular order. Bargaining is where they're starting to kind of come around, but you might say, hey, I'm willing to accept that change, but I want this in return, or something like that. And then finally, acceptance is the final stage of grief and or any type of change process. And these stages also apply to lots of other things in life, divorces, friendships breaking up, things like that. So, important to include all the information, details, and reasoning behind the change to gain acceptance. Employees that aren't informed are going to lose their motivation and enthusiasm. It's going to compromise quality and production in the business. It's important to have support systems to incorporate the change, to avoid difficulties related to utilizing new devices, tests, or procedures. And then employees also need the correct resources and products to perform their job as well. And then all businesses do need to, in today's market, it's important for businesses to kind of keep up with the times. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves non-existent, perhaps like BlackBerry, who they didn't adapt. They thought they had the edge on the market. They kind of laughed at iPhones, iPads, that type of stuff, and said that's never going to work. And lo and behold, they were passed by, and now BlackBerry is done. They just didn't stay on top of things. So it's important for the market, for the businesses to follow along with the market changes, and that's why we did this merger, because we want to become the forefront of the IT world and with social media and some technology. So, and then of course sharing the reasoning and results and benefits from the change to motivate and engage members, and then realizing you can't change people or force them to change, but you can give them the choice to change. Kind of like leading a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So it's going to be up to that person to, then engage in what's going on. Of course, like being very upfront with them and giving them these reasons and benefits for this change will help with that process. And why the change must occur. And those that aren't on board need to be involved. We can ask them to be involved in the change so that we can find out what the problem is, why they are so resistant, and what's going on. It's kind of like, I know I used it before, attempting to turn around a boat versus a big ship. A boat doesn't take very long, so maybe one individual person might not take as long, but to reroute the whole cruise ship and to reroute this whole both companies, it's going to take a little bit of time. So we have to be persistent and patient and offer that constant communication and inclusion and answering people's questions so that they know what's going on and they feel like they're aware of what's happening. Many times I've worked in different places where nobody tells you anything, not until the very end, or maybe you're leaving, you're moving on to a different job, and then they're like, but hey, we were going to do blah, 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 blah. And, well, you didn't tell me that. Nobody shared anything. I didn't know this was going on. Now it's kind of late. I made a decision and moving on. So, and again, we're developing a new company that has plans to exceed in the social media world, and we're looking to, go beyond Google and come up with a new product that's just going to be crazy and that people are going to use everywhere. So we have to create those visions, goals, values, and cultures to align with what's going on and help all employees that believe in our vision to succeed. So to get there, we need to be open, honest, and involve everybody in the change so that the merger can flourish. And take those steps to empower employees as well. So we'll talk about empowerment next. So empowerment is a process of giving the employees and group members the ability to make decisions about their work, and they are actually held accountable for the outcomes of their decisions. They accept responsibility for their decisions, and they solve problems on their own. So basically, it's all employees have the opportunity to be in control of their own destination, however they want that to look or be. Each member brings their own experience, values, behaviors, assumptions, and how effectively these needs are integrated into the company's goals and visions will help produce a successful operation. And since we just recently merged and we're looking to blaze a new path in the IT world, empowering our employees to have a say in their own training and success is essential to creating this buy-in that we need. We need to be able to offer room for growth and potential, to let people know we care about them, their professional and personal growth. We need to provide them with opportunities to learn, explore, experiment, fail without shame, and invest in inclusion and retention and eliminate resistance. The best way to learn is through failure, because we are able to look at what we did wrong and gain the knowledge that we need to change that so we don't make those same mistakes. Another way to help employees is through engagement, by offering feedback, reaching for goals, checking into improvement plans throughout the year, not just during review periods. Engagement leads to buy-in, and that leads to company success because people are vested in the outcome of what's going on. Employees are accountable for the decisions and actions, and they can turn positive or negatives into learning experiences, just like we were talking about with the failure. So, and this allows for delegation of responsibility and authority, helps prevent micromanagement, so leaders can work on other matters. If they've got a good workforce behind them, They don't have to micromanage. They don't have to pick things apart. They don't have to follow people around, making sure they're doing their jobs. People are empowered to do their jobs. And if they don't know how to do their jobs, they're empowered to ask for help and to seek the guidance and training they need to know how to do their job. It's kind of like when if a divorce or a friendship that goes down the drain occurs, you learn from that experience. You take the information. You try not to reproduce those results because they were negative results. And then with empowerment, processes and procedures are enhanced because workers comprehend the reasoning behind the methods of the completion. They aren't just told to do something. They understand the process because of immersion, and they're empowered and trusted with full disclosure of what's going on. It is very hard when you work somewhere and you don't really know why you're doing what you do. It doesn't help you. It may be a learning process to learn everything as to what you are doing, but it's very helpful if you know what that particular item is that you are completing, what that means to the grand scheme of things. And empowerment also gives employees pride, loyalty, and commitment. They are more skilled, they're more involved, they're more productive and accountable. And that leads to a level of ownership and pride in their work, and better customer service. They're likely to go above and beyond the call of duty. And this, of course, makes your own self proud. If you're doing good at your job, if you like what you're doing, if you feel empowered, if you enjoy what you're doing and how you're portraying that to the public, you're going to be happy. And happy people make for a happy workplace, and that's what we all want, because happiness will lead to productivity. Productivity leads to the end goal of the company and making money, which in turn comes back to employees, hopefully in some sort of bonus or other types of rewards. Some empowerment tools that we can look at. It's extremely important to have the training and available for people, and to monitor performance gaps in the materials. So if people aren't getting the right training, we can adjust that training to fit their needs. That we have the resources and tools to complete the jobs for each individual. We convey our confidence in people to perform their jobs. We offer cross-training for insight and future advancement. Employees have the adequate resources to work and solve problems that they are working on. The authority level that we offer people is appropriate for their decision-making and abilities of each person. Some people may not like the authority or like the a higher level of determining what's going on, and other people thrive on that. That's just personality, and that way people aren't uncomfortable, but they do have the option and ability and the training available to make decisions if they so choose to. And then following up with members provides that decision-making accountability, so they know that we care what they're doing. They care what they're doing. They know if they do a good job, they're going to be rewarded in some way, shape, or form. They go above and beyond their duties, and this brings personal and professional fulfillment. And this, of course, leads to skill and productivity increasing, leading to retainment and investment from members. Next, we'll talk about workplace stress. Stress is described as a manner in which the human body responds to challenges. And this can be mental, emotional, physical, psychological. It happens everywhere. It happens at work. It happens at home. It happens at school. It happens at the bus stop. It happens at the grocery store. It happens driving down the road. There's different stressors, including overworking, underworking that could cause stress. You're, in the correct work that you want to do. You're not doing a level of performance of where you feel you should be. There's pressures from management, fear at work, incorrect training, lack of training, possibly other employees that you don't get along with, maybe afraid of being laid off, or job security, and then micromanagement, or possibly even no management. And then home and personal stress can add to this as well. It's hard to alleviate one because they all piggyback one another. Stressful home, stressful work, stressful work, stressful home, vice versa.